Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Russ Thomas, and I'm the CEO of the Prostate Forum of Orange County. It is our pleasure tonight to bring to you one of the highly regarded speakers that we provide for your information pleasure the fourth Thursday of every month.
Really longer follow-up is needed. Prostate cancer is a slow-growing cancer, right? So once they update these results again, I think you'll see even a bigger difference in the PSA helping and actually to decrease the chance of death from prostate cancer. 10 years of follow-up is much too short, especially for younger men. If you look back at this study, right, if you look at the Gleason scores on biopsy, right, here's 2 to 4, 5 to 6. So basically 60% of them had low-risk cancer, a cancer that probably is never really going to spread out and cause any problems. So really, just by having this many low-risk patients, you really wash out the benefit that you might have detected for the Gleason 7, 8, 9, and 10 patients. So why is prostate cancer mortality such a bad endpoint to look at? So most people don't understand this and don't know this. We assume these studies are very clean, done by very intelligent people who have very clean data. Okay, but it's not the case. You know, many men with prostate cancer, they will have Lupron therapy or androgen deprivation therapy as part of the primary treatment or part of their treatment for metastatic disease, right? And long-term androgen deprivation therapy has been associated with numerous cardiovascular problems. So there's a study here looking at low testosterone. They found low testosterone associated with the metabolic syndrome, high lipids, high sugar, high blood pressure, muscle weakness, bone loss, heart attack, stroke. Okay? So this is the treatment they're giving the older men who may happen to get screened. They pick it up and they give them this, so yeah, they're going to end up dying earlier. You're not giving them a treatment that is going to prolong their life. You're giving them a treatment that's actually decreasing their life. There's another study here showing testosterone insufficiency in older men associated with increased risk of death over the following 20 years, independent of multiple risk factors and other pre-existing health conditions. So just by having low testosterone, even without other medical problems, is bad news. So when a patient dies, how do we classify? Is this from prostate cancer or is this from cardiac causes, right? Because I just told you that the treatment can cause cardiac death. So this is a sample case, 75-year-old male with high-risk prostate cancer, diagnosed in 2008, history of angina in 2006, has had hyperlipidemia, cholesterol, high cholesterol for 10 years, controlled hypertension for 15 years. So we treat him with Lupron for a year plus radiation. His PSA is all fine, you know, but up until 2011, his PSA starts to go up. It's 1.5 now. So we say, hey, we got to restart the Lupron, you know, because it hits 40. So he's managed with 3 years of Lupron therapy. 2015, Thanksgiving, has a major heart attack at dinner and is transferred to a local LA hospital. Admitted to the floor, dies on the second day in the hospital. Right now, 4 a.m., the internal medicine resident, who's been on duty for close to 15 hours, is called in to fill out a death certificate for the attending physician, who's too busy managing an unstable patient. So any doctor who's gone through res has been there. I've been there. This was me in New York, you know, filling out death certificates at 4 a.m. for a patient who I've probably known for a day, 2 days maybe. Okay. So this is what the resident looks like. You want this guy to fill out paperwork at 4 a.m. You're probably going to get some squiggly lines, signatures, and stuff that is not completely accurate. So this is what a death certificate looks like, what we fill out. Okay, part 1 is immediate cause. Part 2 is other causes which may have contributed to death. So in this patient, has a heart attack, there's rupture of the myocardium, acute myocardial infarction, blocked vessels in the heart, right? Some diabetes here, okay? But nowhere do we really consider, hey, was this from Lupron therapy, right? So they call his general practitioner and they say, hey, you have this patient, what's going on with them? I don't know, the PSA was 0.1, everything was controlled to Lupron, you know, he doesn't have active prostate cancer, this is not related to prostate cancer. So bam, this patient gets counted as dying from cardiac causes. Nowhere do we really take into account, hey, he's been on this Lupron for 3 years, that may have caused him to die, okay? So really, now these studies are saying, yeah, they're not dying from the prostate cancer, they're dying with it. Well, this is kind of how you die with it, is you're getting therapy, then you may not have it in your body, but the therapy is killing you. So really, who gets logged as a prostate cancer death? This is a patient who has active mets in the liver, the bone, the organs, hormone refractory, and the death is directly related to the cancer. This actually rarely happens, okay? So even in these trials, you saw those big numbers. It's the number of actual prostate cancer deaths is pretty low. I think most of the deaths are from hormonal treatment. So ideally, we should be comparing overall survival between the two groups to see which two groups live longer, right? That's pretty much going to be impossible to do a trial like that. Very difficult to find two groups that have been well balanced. If they were going to do this, they should exclude low-risk patients, and they should just design a trial looking at Gleason 7 to 10 patients. Would require at least 15 years of follow-up time to really give good data. Okay. There's this other trial that came out. It was a pivot trial. This was from the VA. It was another bad study. They concluded that treatment does not improve outcomes for men. But when you look at the study, when you look at the details of the study, right? They originally wanted to recruit 13,000 men. At the end, only 700 agreed to participate. So that's a very low number. We all know that the more numbers in the study, the more we can detect this, clinically relevant differences. 730 that's pretty low. Median PSA 7.8, low risk 40%, intermediate risk 36%, high risk 20%. And these are all predominantly detected by rising PSA. So look at the rates of death. The ones who had surgery, 5.8%, observation 8.4%. So numerically, actually, there's still a little bit less death in the surgery arm, but to them it wasn't significant. But what they found was that in men with a PSA value greater than 10, were intermediate risk or high risk cancers, that doing surgery actually did reduce your chance of death. Okay, so really, to me, this study showed that there are men who do benefit from the treatment. This was their conclusion. They basically said, it didn't reduce anything. Okay, but when you read the paper, actually, intermediate and high-risk patients, they did benefit. The major criticism is that they only recruited 730 men. The funny thing is the protocol stated that any patient enrolled in this trial should have at least 10 years life expectancy. They wanted healthy men. But in the study, by 10 years, almost half of the men in both arms are already dead. Okay, so it tells me that they picked bad patients for this study. That's why they weren't able to detect any sort of large differences. Also, the most VA patients, they are in a little bit worse health, have a little bit higher rates of smoking and poor medical compliance. So really, the VA population was not a good population to do this study. So this really tells us that anybody with less than a 10-year life expectancy shouldn't get treated. But this really doesn't help us in what do we do with men who are 40, 50, or 60s, right? What do we do with them? The study really doesn't address that. So there's lots of problems in the data, poor data entry, poor studies where there's crossover allowed. A lot of these studies have low-risk disease or patients with comorbidities, so it's really tough to detect an overall survival benefit, a dramatic one, at least. So this is the USPTF. They came out with these little things. I'm not going to go over that. But how are we trying to improve the PSA test, right? How can we find men who really need to be treated? So there's other ways of looking at the PSA, the free versus the total PSA. There's also PSA density at the transition zone. There's age-specific PSA reference ranges where the older you are, we allow you to have a higher PSA. We look at PSA velocity, how quickly is the PSA going up? The PSA doubling time, how quickly does the PSA double? And the pro-PSA. The pro-PSA is a protein that's actually the precursor of PSA, so they're trying to look at that to see if that can help. Another thing that's a big help is also MRI of the prostate. This can visualize clinically important lesions. So Gleason scores 4+3s, 8s, 9s, and 10s, they'll show up on MRI, whereas the clinically slower growing ones, the Gleason 6 and the 3+4s, are not really easily visualized. Okay. So if these lesions are seen, then they can do a direct MRI-guided biopsy instead of doing the standard 12-core biopsy, right? Why would you want 12 holes through the rectum when you can just have one needle go right to the target? So this is an MRI right here. Tumors are dark right here. So right there, you direct one needle right to that area, and you can figure out what's going on. One other thing too is, we're seeing that prostate cancer is, in most cancers, rectal cancer, breast cancer, lung cancers are occurring in younger and younger patients, right? We all suspect that it is from the environment, things that we take in, from our food. Evidence from actually over 25 studies support the fact that more red meat a man eats, the higher the risk of developing prostate cancer, right? Fried foods, processed foods, saturated animal fats, diets high in animal dairy, all been shown to increase the rate of prostate cancer and also accelerate the progression of the disease in those who have it. Okay, so a lot of these toxins that we take in are much more than what we had 20, 30 years ago. So PSA screening becomes even more important because now younger and younger men are getting the prostate cancer and need to be picked up. So in 2012, more than 10% of the 240,000 new prostate cancer diagnoses in the US were in men under 55. That's a 6-fold increase in diagnosis among that age group since 1986. So a lot more patients are getting it younger. And early onset prostate cancer is much more dangerous for younger patients, with mortality rates up to 40% higher than their older counterparts. So if you have a patient who's 75 with a Gleason 6 tumor versus a 40-year-old with a Gleason 6 tumor, they're very different. The 40-year-old, his Gleason 6 tumor is going to have a lot of inborn genetic errors. There's going to be a higher chance of that cancer coming back, and the prognosis is going to be much worse than a man who's actually having it when he's much older. Okay. So this is the NCCN guidelines. In 2015, this is their way of trying to come up with some sort of early detection for prostate cancer. So they say 45 to 75. If the PSA is greater than 1, then you should continue getting PSAs every 1 to 2 years. If your DRE is normal and your PSA is less than 1, then you can probably just get it every 2 to 4 years. Okay, so they're kind of doing it to just get a baseline and then see if you need it every 1 to 2 years or every 2 to 4 years. So conclusions, screening may overdiagnose, but I think every man deserves a chance to at least know if he has prostate cancer within him, okay, if he chooses. And current trials have numerous criticisms, including poor data entry, too many low-risk patients, poor data evaluation. MRI imaging should help to make the screening less invasive, and we'll probably see even more young patients diagnosed with the disease due to environmental and genetic etiologies. It's a new world. So for 2 years in a row, we've helped out with the Cruising for a Cure car show. It's been around since year 2000. We give out free PSA screening and digital rectal exams. So they give us a nice big room. I think he's running away. I don't think he wants to go in. This year we did 815 blood draws. Okay. And here's our staff. We're all volunteers here. And then Quest came out. They sent out some volunteers too. So we really appreciate it that they actually did that. And then here we have these little trailers set up where we do the digital rectal exams. So here's a example of the room. It's a trailer. So actually these trailers, normally actors on TV shows and movie stars, they hang out here to rest, but we're giving rectal exams in there for a couple days. So, it's all set up, we give the rectal exam, you get their blood test. And here's just some cars that they had, a lot of vintage cars out there. This is a nice Rolls Royce. Some other cars on the show. So, from our results, our average age of patients was 63. The average PSA was 1.61. If the PSA is over 2.5, it's not abnormal, but we kind of start to get worried. We tell patients, we got to keep an eye on this. Okay, so about 17% of them had a PSA over 2.5. About 80% of them had a normal digital rectal exam. We found about 12% of patients with BPH, and 10% of patients with suspicious digital rectal exams. And about 66% of them didn't want a digital rectal exam at all. So what we're doing with this data is we're going to follow these patients for many, many years and try to figure out how many prostate cancers we detected from our screening program. We're trying to publish that and kind of show that, hey, these screening affairs they actually do help. So that's our hope, is that we'll have more data to prove what we're doing with the PSA screening. Okay. And that's it. Any questions?
Oh, yeah, we're going to have questions.
Yeah, okay.
Who's first? Oh, Ron, okay.
Is the relationship between the PSA and cancer linear?
It's pretty linear. It's pretty linear. Above 10, very, very linear. I would say below 10, yeah, there can be some inconsistencies, but definitely the higher it gets, the more obvious it is that this is likely going to be cancer.
So does it mean that the cancer actually doubles in size if the PSA doubles?
It can double in amount in microscopic disease. So PSA kind of gives you an idea of quantity of cancer, a rough idea. So yeah, when it does double, yeah, the PSA normally goes up also.
Okay, I'm going to step in and ask a question because this has been bugging me a little bit. You mentioned that taking Lupron increases your death, possibility of death from cardiac arrest. What about us that have metastatic disease? We have to.
We have to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you just gave me a death sentence.
Yeah. It controls painful bone mets.
Yeah.
It can control it from going to the liver. You know, if it goes to organ like the liver, yeah, you could die from liver failure too.
So there are, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, so there are instances where Lupron, it is helpful. It is preventing deaths from other areas, but in and of itself, long term, can cause all those problems that we talked about. Okay, so that's why they say people aren't dying from prostate cancer, dying with it, and it's because we have these good drugs that can control it. Okay, but these drugs also have their side effects too.
So how many months is
Hold on, honey.
safety?
Say that again?
How many months is the safety?
It's safe, yeah. So in general, 1.5 years and less is safe. 1.5 years to 2 years and above, then you start really running into a problem. So a lot of the patients who are metastatic, they're on lifelong Lupron therapy.
For instance, I'm metastatic, so I'm on testosterone reduction for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm 77 years old and I have a long way to go. So, you know, I've been on testosterone reduction for 10 years now.
Okay.
So there is both sides.
Okay.
And
PSA velocity.
Mm-hmm.
What, like a doubling time is critical? Like if it doubles over what, a year or double over?
Yeah, so in general, if the doubling time is less than 6 months to a year, then it's doubling rather quickly. If it's over a year, 2 years, then it's a little bit slower. Yeah, but if it's doubling, you know, less than 6 months to a year, it's considered fast.
for those of us in this room, we know that PSA is very valuable, and the task force said that we shouldn't do PSA testing, but that's because we go in and get a PSA test and the doctor says, oh, you've got a Gleason 6, and you're the great candidate for surgery, and I had a cancellation next week, come on in. And you haven't had a chance to come to the prostate forum and learn all the facts yet. That's the problem with the PSA test, with over-treatment.
Right.
Terry, did you have a question? Oh, I thought I saw you raise your hand.
I got another question.
I thought you would.
Since the PCA3 is supposed to be a better, more reliable test, why isn't that used instead of PSA?
We use that in conjunction, so yeah, we're starting to use that a little bit more often too. So yeah, we do use that also to help us.
And there's so few labs in the country that do that.
Yeah, so we normally send it out to certain labs that do it. So if you want the test, it's not too hard to get. It can still be done. Normally for me, I like doing the MRI. It's a great test to really see where the tumors are, how big it is there aggressive features, is there extracapsular extension, is there some vesicle involvement. So most of my patients, I like getting an MRI on them.
When you say MRI, you're talking about multiparametric?
Multiparametric, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hold on just a minute, sir. Let me get you next.
Doctor, if a person goes and have a test for 0.1, in 6 months he got 0.2, that's double. Another person has 2, and in 6 months he got 4. Both cases are 100%. Would you consider this they both bad, or?
So these are never been treated patients with PSA?
It's just a hypothetical.
Oh, hypothetical, yeah. It depends. I mean, we've seen things like that. A 0.1 to a 4, that's pretty rare though. That's a pretty significant jump. If there was a jump that big, the first thing I'm thinking is inflammation, a urinary tract infection, something that's not cancer. Whenever it jumps up that quickly. Yeah, but normally it's this stepwise progression, up. Yeah, oh, it depends. Sometimes it can be slow in the beginning and then just start shooting up very quickly too. Okay.
I think you answered the question.
Oh, we answered the question, okay.
All right, more questions. Here we go. Let me tell you about Bob. He's newly diagnosed and he's looking for a doctor.
Okay.
You stated earlier that one of the things that could elevate PSA could be gallstones. Or
Kidney stones, yeah.
I had a kidney stone situation not quite a year ago. And then, 8 or 9 months later, PSA is up to 5.9, where previously it was in the 4s.
Right.
And biopsy showed prostate cancer. Could that elevation have something to do with the kidney stones?
Not really. They've done so I would just keep following the PSA too, if you wanted to see if it continues to go up. If it continues to go up, then it's prostate cancer. But normally if it's kidney stone, it's when the kidney stone is passed, we get a spike. And then the half-life of PSA is about 3 days, so it should clear out by a month or so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Charles.
I got a question. Would you cover the possible reasons your PSA would go up and then come back down?
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons. So a lot of men, most of us don't realize this, but men, we go through menopause ourselves also, where we actually do have our testosterone drop down. Some men more than others. But if it's a significant drop, it can actually lower your PSA because there's less testosterone stimulation of the prostate. So a lot of hypogonadal men or low testosterone men, they can have lower PSA as they age.
Now, isn't it true that if your PSA goes up and it's because of cancer, it will not do the dropping?
So I'll tell you one thing that was really interesting. When I was at Kaiser Permanente, we did a lot of active surveillance. So we followed patients and saw how their PSAs went. It was kind of interesting because what you would expect is that the PSA would go from 4 to 8 to 12 to 24 and keep doubling, going up. But what we saw was that once the PSA kind of hit the 10 to 20 range, right, and these are patients with diagnosed cancer, Gleason 7, that the PSA actually kind of would just hover around 10 and 20 for about 3-4 years and then shoot up. So we all kind of hypothesized that at that 3 or 4 years, it must be our immune system and maybe the cancers in the pelvis. We're trying to control things, microscopic disease, but at the end it just shoots off. So there may be some immune effect that our bodies is trying to control it, because we don't see it just keep going up. But what we see in men who are treated for the prostate cancer afterwards, right, then we don't see that as much. Normally if it comes back after prostate cancer, the PSA just keeps going up. We don't see this up and down thing as much. Okay.
Now, in your practice, after the biopsy, if the biopsy is like 7 or 8, do you pay attention to the PSA?
You mean Gleason
and
score?
If you do, for what reason?
You mean the Gleason score is 7 or 8?
Right.
Yeah. If the Gleason score, so the Gleason score tells you the quality of the cancer, how aggressive this beast is. The PSA kind of gives you an idea of quantity, how much cancer that might be there. Okay. Certainly if the PSA is over 10, that's worrisome. But yeah, if it's a Gleason 7 or 8, that already tells me that, hey, this is a cancer that can be very aggressive and needs to be treated. So
the importance of what is your PSA is not as important after you get the biopsy that shows it.
It's still important. Multiple studies have shown when the PSA goes over 10, your chances of cure just starts to decrease. So the lower the PSA, the higher the cure rates.
Okay, you mentioned that you were doing active surveillance with Gleason 7s.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a little startling to me, because I thought Gleason 6s were the active surveillance.
No, so there's even active surveillance. There are certain patients who refuse treatment. They don't want the radiation. They don't want the surgery, and it's very interesting following them. We had one patient that we followed. I followed him the last 4 years. He had been followed for 10 years previously, and by the time it was the 4 years I was following him, his PSAs were just going between 10 and 20, 10 and 20. But my last year of residency, his PSA shot up to 30. That's when I said, hey, I think the cat's out of the bag. Let's get the bone scan. Let's figure out what's going on. So it tells me that there is probably some immune effect from our body trying to control the cancer.
Have you witnessed some active surveillance on Gleason 7s that were okay throughout, that they didn't need primary treatment later on?
That one patient I'm talking about, I mean, he was followed and it was a Gleason 3+4 at diagnosis. And then he was followed for about 15 years until his last PSA with me was about 30. So at that time I told him, yeah, you gotta get treatment. But it kind of showed you this guy went 15 years without anything done. Granted, at PSA of 30, he's probably not curable, but we could probably still give him Lupron for many, many years and still control him for 5, 7 years if he absolutely refused everything.
The reason I emphasize that is that's the situation Bob is in right now. So I just want to encourage him that he's got time to do his homework and research.
Yeah, exactly. So, to do a prostate MRI, that's very important. The prostate is about this big, and you're putting 12 needles through it. You may be missing things. We've had patients where, for years, we followed them, rising PSA, 12-core biopsies every single year, can't find the tumor. You do an MRI, and you find a huge tumor in the front of his prostate that we've been missing the whole time. So really, the MRI is very good for determining exactly how much disease there is. And also, if you're debating surgery versus radiation, the MRI can help too. It can kind of help to show you where the tumor is it going to be easily removable? So MRI is always helpful.
Wouldn't it make a big difference on the number of cores that are positive? In other words, like you have 12 folks and there's only 1 or 2?
Yeah, exactly. So that helps too. And also, how much cancer is within the core. Okay, but even then, we've had patients who've got 12 cores and every single one missed. So really, the MRI I think is very important just to exactly figure out where things are.
Now you say MRI, and I know that each time you say it, you're talking about
multi-parametric MRI. Yep.
Now, in your opinion, do you think that the multi-parametric MRI will get to the point that we don't need the PSA testing anymore?
Because the MRI is so expensive, I think there's always going to be a PSA first, and then something, then you move on to a MRI. It's just so expensive for MRI. I don't see that as a first step for screening.
In your lecture, you did mention the value of nutrition. And my question is, does a good nutrition plays any role in the stability of the PSA?
Yeah. So in general, from these studies, and they have found that like a better diet can prevent the cancers from growing faster. Okay, so certain studies have shown that. The most researched ones is exercise, not smoking, eating less red meat. Those are the 3 probably most time-tested ones that have shown to decrease cancer coming back in general, new cancers, previous cancers also.
We got a newcomer here, Barbara, her first time here.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, doctor. Regarding exercise, what level of exercise has been shown to be the most helpful?
Moderate exercise, 30 to 45 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. Okay, and a lot of it is just getting the body moving, less fat in the body, because fat acts as a reservoir for toxins that can cause cancer. Fat, in women, fat can actually increase your estrogen levels, right? So we actually see higher incidence of uterine cancer, breast cancer in women who are overweight, and it's also because of that fat, making too much estrogen.
I've never seen him ask so many questions before.
You was mentioning things like exercise and diet. I just recently was reading an article and it talked about sexual activity and how it was good for your prostate gland. It got rid of some toxins that's in the, is that true?
Yeah, you see a lot of that out there, just getting the liquid out. Most men who get stones in their prostate are men who, at some point are like, we're making love enough. The semen calcified and they get little stones there. So, I agree. I think to get it out is better. Just get the fluid out.
Hear that, man?
Doctor's orders.
Anybody else? Oh, yeah, we got one over here, Jim.
You might want to comment, Doctor. I understand that statins sometimes will have an effect on helping prostate cancer. Even if you have normal cholesterol, some doctors are prescribing statins has some effect.
Yeah, there's some small reports on that. For me, I don't really do that because most of my patients are already on statins.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice. We're going to adjourn. We thank you very much, Dr. Ye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know what? We can't afford to pay you, but we know your time is money. So we are going to save your time by giving you your second cup from the Prostate Forum. It fits in your car so that you can drink your coffee on the way to work. You don't have to take time at home. There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching our video. If you would like to learn all the most current prostate cancer information, we have many YouTube videos on our website at www.prostateforum.org. We also have meetings the fourth Thursday of every month where you can talk to mutual survivors. You can also ask personal questions to the doctors and the speakers after the meeting. Remember, when us men hear the word cancer, the big C, our brains turn to mush. We think we're about to die. Come learn where there's hope and information at the Prostate Forum of Orange County.